Tonight, we address the elephant in the room with a reality check. While many will say most undocumented immigrants come to America to make a better life, there are some, just like any other group, who will come to America to commit crimes. We start in Houston, where 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungary was allegedly murdered by Johan Jose Martinez Angel and Franklin Pena, both undocumented immigrants who remain behind bars in Houston. Just yesterday, another undocumented 23-year-old Victor Hernandez was arrested in Oklahoma for the murder of Rachel Morin in Maryland back in August of 2023. Joining us to talk about this, Cesar Espinosa from Fiel, Dr. Dietrich von Bietenfeld from the University of Houston Downtown, Melissa Wilson of the Urban Conservatives of America, and from Crime Stoppers, Andy Kahn. Thank you all for joining us here on The Factor. First of all, your thoughts about this latest case and the subject matter that we're talking about tonight.
Isaiah, I just came back. I was at the candlelight vigil tonight, and I've been sadly at a lot of candlelight vigils, but tonight was absolutely overwhelming. The community support for Jocelyn. I mean, basically, she's become everybody's daughter, everybody's sister, and she's galvanized the entire city. You had the mayor there. I've been doing this for 30, this is the first time I've seen a mayor in over 30 years attend a candlelight vigil on behalf of a victim of a violent crime, a homicide. You had the police chief, and kudos to HPD. They did an amazing job getting these two suspects taken into custody and charging them. But you know, I look at this and I see this, and I was at another one last August, 11-year-old Maria Gonzalez, you might remember her, in Pasadena, that was also strangled by an undocumented immigrant. I don't know what's happening in our country right now. All I'm concerned about is making sure victims are taken care of.
All right, your thoughts?
Well, for one, I want to commend Mayor Whitmer in his press conference for acknowledging that these criminals should not have a bond. And so, you know, we have an issue here that the public is not taking the border issue serious enough. Yes, there are people who come here legally. We're talking about the people who come here illegally, and they remain here. You have people coming over here overstaying visas. It's not been taken serious until just recently, where the Biden administration saw that his ratings were at 30% when it came to this issue. And so when you have a 12-year-old girl that's being brutally murdered, at some point you have to wake up and say, hello, okay, where are we going to go from here? Because she's not the only one that this has happened to. It's happened to several of these young women. And to be a mother of girls myself, and to know that any moment my child could be taken away from me, and then especially from an undocumented immigrant who shouldn't be here in the first place.
All right, Cesar, let's hear from you, because your whole thing is, and you've been here time and time again, you always say they just want to cut, and I don't want to say they, because that sounds horrible. Yeah. Individuals who may not be documented come here and they simply want to work and make a better living for their family. But just like any other group out there, they're bad apples.
Well, so first of all, our heart goes out to this family. They've been suffering an unimaginable tragedy, and I think this is. I wish you had a 6-hour show so we could really dive into this thing. You know, there's a problem in America and all over the world against men committing crimes against women, just period, in Mexico, everywhere. And we have to turn the conversation from protecting women to creating men who are not going to be predatory and go after women. That's one. The second thing, I've been doing this for a little bit less than Andy, and I've certainly seen many mayors attend a lot of these things. This thing keeps happening time and time again, and the state legislature refuses to amend laws to make it more punishable for people not to get bonds for people. So there's a lot of mixed things, but this is charged politically just because President Trump keeps beating the drum saying immigrants are this, and that's like me saying that every Caucasian in America is going to be accountable because Jeffrey Dahmer was accountable, and we cannot, we should not label everybody under one umbrella, because then that creates a target on people's backs, on an entire community, where we have good, hardworking people. So we want to see these people taken away. We want to see these people serve their time and for this family to get justice, but we should be really careful about saying that undocumented immigrants are doing this and that, because unfortunately, people get murdered, and women specifically get murdered in this country all the time.
All right, Dr. Von Biedenfeld from the University of Houston downtown, have we been too careful in handling undocumented immigrants with kids' gloves? Because like he just said, we should be careful about what we say. But the reality is there are bad apples in every group. And should we have a right to call it out?
I'm going to join in the call for you to get a 6-hour show, so speak to the network, because I couldn't even do a pestle analysis or my own hiccup analysis on this in the time where it was just you and I. The reality is this is a tragedy, and our hearts go out to the family, but there are a number of socioeconomic factors and political factors that influence this, particularly in this instance with Jocelyn, because this 12-year-old is potentially murdered by 2 Venezuelans, and the political situation without a consular presence, the individual immigrants, rarely are the ruling class immigrating. That's just a reality. It's social misfits. So they may be social misfits like Iran because they're intellectuals and they like reading, but they may also be social misfits like Tony Montana in Scarface, who are being expelled by the people. Like, if you want to go, fine. You've got border controls in Venezuela, and we've changed things. Mexico has instituted harsher visa restrictions, which have prevented those wealthier Venezuelans from flying into Mexico City and walking over. And so many of the individuals who are coming over now are people who are already not just undocumented, but they are unaware or uncaring about the legal realities or options available. So I think we are too sensitive, because we could have terrorists crossing the border.
All right, don't go anywhere. We'll continue this conversation after the break. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored, our focus on the border tonight, as we examine the connection of murders in the U.S. to those who illegally cross the border. Homeland Security has compiled data between 2017 and 2023. We're showing it here. The numbers of immigrants who have been arrested for murder in that time frame in America. There were 3 arrests in 2017, also 2018, and 2019, and 2 in 2019, and 2 arrests in 2019, 60 in 2021, 62 in 2022, and 29 in 2023, which also includes parts of this year. So those arrests we recently talked about, they're not on that list. Our guests are back for the discussion tonight. So guys, looking at the numbers, bad? What do you think?
But this aligns exactly with what we left off with the policy changes in Mexico, Title 42 changes with COVID. And so a lot of the policy changes have encouraged those less sort of beneficial actors that we think of as immigrants to move in. Now, we know that there's a lot of bigotry. We saw this with internment camps for the Japanese while Germans were allowed to go free in World War II. We've seen this in a number of areas where Chinese and Indian immigrants are able to fly over and overstay their visas. Those are also people who are not legally remaining in residence. And so we do stigmatize certain brown people of certain demographics, and it does work for our politics sometimes. But the reality is, because of these changes, many of the individuals who are coming are not coming here to work. They're not coming here. They're hearing about handouts. They're hearing about free housing. Oh, I can stay at a hotel. We see this in Vienna, and it's pushing far-right governments into power because people are saying, what about us? We've been paying taxes, and you're not playing by the rules.
I'll tell you, I've worked with victims who's lost loved ones to homicide. I've worked with families where the perpetrators have been from Europe, from Africa. I just worked with one from Asia. So it's all over the spectrum. So it's not, you know.
It's important to point out, Andy, when we look at those numbers, we're not just talking about brown people from Mexico or South America. We're talking about from all over the world.
Well, let's talk about the data. The data is showing, if you look at the data in the most recent years, since this administration has taken over, the Biden administration, the numbers have more than tripled when it comes to murder and homicides, when it comes to illegal immigration. So
that actually correlates with the amount of homicides that have risen in Harris County and throughout the nation in the last few years.
Because this administration is soft on that policy. And so until now, he's coming up with a viable plan because he's trying to get reelected, right? Okay, and we still have an issue here. The numbers have more than tripled on this issue. So Americans are fearful that the immigration policy is not sound enough. It's not sound enough. It doesn't protect everyday Americans like myself, my children, this young lady that just lost her life. You know?
Let me ask you this.
Really quick, let's speak up.
Here's the thing, though. We see the numbers, we see the thing, and I'm going to give you guys the benefit of the doubt because like I said, we feel for the people that this has happened to. But compared to the number of people that are showing up, these are smaller numbers. And if you compare the numbers to other people, to other ethnicities or other people that are already here, they commit murder at a super enormous rate. Just in mass shootings, I'm reading statistics today. Another mass shooting happened in Arkansas, and 53% of mass shootings are committed by white males. Does that mean that we have to be afraid of all white males? I am an immigrant myself. I'm sitting next to you. Are you afraid of me right now? Should everybody be afraid of me? Should the audience be afraid of me? No, because many people like me are just coming over here and we're doing what we can, and nobody complains about the $1.2 trillion that we're benefiting this economy without getting Medicare or Social Security or any benefit.
What do you say to Jocelyn's family? What do you say to Jocelyn's family? What do you tell them?
Jocelyn's family, I say we will let the legal system take care of it. We will let the judges do what they need to do, Andy, under the state legislature laws. And until we change, until you and I can go up to the state legislature and say we need harsher punishment for murderers, then we should all continue to work so that these tragedies don't happen.
We agree that we need
We're out of
harsher
time.
punishment.
We'll be back in just a moment. Thank our guests for joining us here on The Factor tonight.